Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lili Nishmasi Mimirosi was Bas Mordechai. Welcome to all the guests. We will start. Well, as usual, the shir is L'zechus Nishmas, all those who have fallen. Robert Early's son on Shabbos, unbelievable. The Chaver went to the Levaya, and very, very bitzar. But I don't want to bring the Olam down. Can't start off a shir on a down. So we're going to say Tehillim after the shir, and we'll go straight into the emails. We had two people that jumped in, both sponsoring the turning of the daf, which is $1,000 each. So we have two new sponsors for Lili Neshama of this Kaddish who went down on Shabbos protecting Klal Yisrael. He gave up his life, the biggest act of chesed. He gave up his life to protect other yidden. Rabbi Isai, I'm your Talmud since Beitza. We met officially during your first tour to Miami last winter break. My journey MDY was such an impact on me, coming from someone with particularly maybe no yeshiva background. I wanted to give some chizik. Thanks for everything since starting. Getting to see the growth, not just in myself, but in my bookcase. I forgot to bring the other picture. Since joining MDY, Bekitzer, he has his medals. Each mesechta he puts into his bookcase. Since joining MDY, I literally had to make room for his Baba Kama. So I had to reorganize my bookcase to make some room. Your Talmud, Tzvi Klempner, Coral Springs, Florida. Yishkoyach, welcome. Dear Rebbe, thank you for Shurim and all you have done for me over the years. Sadly, every day we hear a number of soldiers dying al Kiddush Hashem in overnight battles. I wanted to bring to your attention the website achimbetfilo.org, ACHIMBTEFILLAH.org, that was set up to have 10,000 people say Tehillim for soldiers during the hours of the most serious battle times in Gaza when it's in the middle of the night there. That's why I keep on saying that we are learning Torah. There's nothing like learning Torah, the schus, those chaylim that are on the battlefields. And right now, as we speak, and as we get the shir, it's the middle of the night in Israel. It's in the middle of the battle. Here in the U.S., it is evening. We can daven for our fellow yidden at this time. There are almost 8,000 people already signed up. Thanks for everything. Basically, what he's saying is they're going to top it off. They're going to limit it to 10,000. That's what it says. It's mashma. They want to get 10,000. They already have 8,000. Yaakov D. Lakewood, Talmud since Megillah. The other could sign up. Second generation MDY Chassan, Gavi Deppen, Ner Tamid. He's from the Ner Tamid. That's the name of that shul that 170 people signed up to do the daf, Baba Kama, Ner Tamid, Baba Kama. He's the Chassan himself. He also signed up. And at his Chassana, he's learning the daf. Chapping the daf minutes before the Chassana. It's about the Yomi. Thanks for making it official. This is one of the shortest emails I ever received. Philip Goldstein. I've never enjoyed Gemara much in my life. Thank you. I just found you saved. I'm keeping you. Something like that. Stubborn high fever. Rabbi Isai Moifus. MDY Moifus. Hi, Rebelli. I hope all is well. I'm currently in the hospital with my 12-year-old. You should have Rafus Shlema. I'm saying myself. My 12-year-old son who suffered a serious injury. Last week, my son's fever was very high, and doctors in the ICU department in one of the best hospitals in Israel had a very difficult time lowering it. I just was holding strong and stubborn. It was very concerning to all of us. And the pressure, I guess the fever was stubborn. Pressure was intense until I decided to learn my Daf Yomi, which wasn't easy due to the situation. You can imagine, kid sitting there in the hospital, and he opens up the Gemara. So I turned on your shir. Now it's in bold. So I turned on your shir, and after literally a minute, the number started lowering and lowering, was seriously flipping out, and continued with the shir. Baruch Hashem, his matzvah was still very serious but stable. Just felt I needed to share this with you. Thank you, Tiskal Mitzvahs. Yaakov Moshe Ben Dvora should have Rafua Shlema. Yehuda, I don't know the last name. We should have Rafua Shlema. Rabbis have been self-responsible for the unity of Am Yisrael. Keitzad the Regel. Table 6 for Naftali Ben Channa, who was in a skiing accident almost 2 years ago and is paralyzed from waist down. And one of the Gadolim said we should learn Keitzad the Regel for him. Paras HaChodesh, the Nishma Zechraya Ben Moshe and Nishma Zechraya Bas Yosef. Paras HaChodesh. Rafua Shlema Dava Dvora Bas Sarah. Paras HaChodesh. Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer Ben Rochel and Yidden worldwide. Paras HaShavua. Last day. Alen Kahen. Yocheved Mina Bat Avraham and Emunah Rivka Bat Ben Yom and Zchoryan Rochel. Paras HaYoyim. Sruli Furman, celebrate my son Yehuda's 18th cancerversary. In Hashem, good health until 120. RL 245. Sruli, Yishkoyach, we love you. Steve Jakubowski, here he is with us today in memory of my father, David Ben Tzvi HaKoyen, on his 26th Yortzeit in Shamash and Avin Aliyah. Yosef Neiman, L'zechus Nishmas, Esther Baila, Aleh Shalom Bas, R Yehoshua Mordechai, Neri Yoyer. And the Shamash and Avin Aliyah, the art of the month, Yosef Ben Chai is sorrowful, the schusim that come from supporting Limud HaTorah. Rabbi Yisai, we're holding the Vizayin, Amud Beis, all the way in the bottom. And just to remind the Olam what's going on, Boy Rava, it's all the way, we're not going to do the whole sugi again because we did a lot of it, but to remind the Olam, Boy Rava, Darsa al Kli v'loy shavartu, if an animal steps on a vessel and didn't succeed in breaking it, and it rolls down the road and it hits a wall, so what's the question? Do we go at the point of when the animal touched the kli, and he did it? It's as if it broke right then and there. Perhaps we go when it was broken, and that's already tzroiros, that happened later on. Does anybody remember one of the answers the Gemara gave? The Gemara gave this. Let me show you. Oh, that if you have a kli that falls out of the window and it's going to break anyway, so it's considered 100% broken. So the guy with the bat that hits it is potter. In other words, once you hit it at the moment of impact, that's when you are chayiv. You don't worry about when it breaks. It takes 5 seconds to parachute down and break. No, that's not when you're chayiv. You're chayiv all the way in the beginning when it's up there. So that answers the question. When the animal gives it a kick and it didn't break, halachically, that's when it broke, when it gave it a kick. It took 5 seconds to roll and hit a wall, but it's already in the process of breaking beforehand. And therefore, it's not sroiros.
Rolling is not the same as slowing from a ceiling.
Okay, why?
Because it's rolling, it's going straight. It may not break, it may break, it may not break.
In a situation that it's going to break, a nice hard roll by a cow is going 45 miles an hour towards the wall. And it took 10 seconds. I hear what you're saying. Gravity's 100% rolling. What's going to happen? A big wind will come and blow this way. Okay, hear enough, Mina. But at the end of the day, you could understand the svara if you tried this 1,000 times and every single time it broke on the wall. Halachically, it's a good child to think about. Where did it happen? Do we care at the point of impact or the point when it left? It's like the gun. A gun, you understand, when I shoot, I'm chayiv because I hit it and my body caused it. And yes, it took 10 seconds to reach there, but 99 out of 100, it's going to hit the target. So, yeah, if you have an AR-15, you don't have to have a good shot. It's automatic, basically. Says the Gemara like this. 3 lines from the bottom. Toshma. Hidus Einoi Muad. So let me show you this video. So here's the chickens, Rabbi Isai. Okay, so there's 2 parts to this Gemara. I just showed you the end. Hidus Einoi Muad v'yashoyim harei muad. Dancing on a jug is not considered a muad, and some say it is a muad. There's different ways that we're going to see today. It's interesting. This piece we're going to have 3 times. Okay, so get used to it. Today, 3 times. And basically the answer is going to be the same 3 times, but we try to bring 3 different rayas from here. So again, the question is, the Gemara wants to prove something here. What happened when a chicken dances on a jug? Is that normal for a chicken to do? Yes. Chickens do crazy. They dance, they walk around. They're always doing something, and they break things. So why is it Einoi Muad? Says the Gemara, because he didn't understand Pshat. He does Sokadaitach. Of course that's a Muad. That's normal. Elolav he does V'hitis. What happened was, like in this case, that it broke the jug. Here we go, again. And a piece shot out and hit something else. And that would be tzroiros. Now we can understand. That's exactly the machlokes. The mar savar bosami karaz linon. It's like literally his body made something break. It happened immediately. You chayiv a full nezek shalim. That's why it's called muad. Hariz muad is talking. We're talking about the second svar now. Umar savar in the first mando amar the tanakamos bosar tovar monaz linon. What happened afterwards? And afterwards, it took some time to roll down the floor. And what is it called? Tzroiros. And that's why only chayiv a half an ezek. That's good for the machlokes. Do we go based on what the chicken did when it banged its foot? Yes, it took 5 seconds for shard of what do you call it, earthenware to go and break something. But lemais it's when it hit it. It's lemais it's when it falls off the window. Lemais it's when you shoot the gun. It had at that moment. Or no. We wait until it happens, but if you're going to wait until it happens, that's already new halacha. That's called tzroiros. That's already, what is tzroiros? Just to remind Olam, here we go. Here's tzroiros. And in tzroiros, we have a machlokes. We call it chatzi nezek tzroiros. There's one man, we hold that tzroiros is only 50%. But Sumcha says nezek shalom. It doesn't matter, even if it shoots out of the foot, we say 50%. Why? Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Special halacha HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave. What is this bad? This is not Karen. This is regel. It happened. It's walking normally, minding its own business, not trying to enjoy itself, not trying to eat and enjoy, not trying to damage, just walking. That's called regel. It shot out a stone. That's called tzroiros. So it should really be regel. So you should really pay 100%. Why are you paying 50%? Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Chum Simcha says no. I disagree. There's no such halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which is difficult to understand because halacha l'Moshe Sinai is usually no machlokes in that. We know what halacha l'Moshe Sinai is. He says no. Halacha l'Moshe Sinai is something else. We'll see tomorrow. Okay, let's keep on going. Loi. So I have an answer to Rav's question. When an animal crushes a glass, but it doesn't crush, he steps on a glass. The glass rolls 20 feet, hits a wall, and explodes. Do we go by the explosion or we go when he hit it? Nafkamina, do you pay half or a whole? I want to bring a raya from the chicken? No raya. Loi. Behitis, tzroiros, uveplukta, the sumchas, v'rabbana kimifligi. This is the answer we're going to have 3 times, Rabbi Sai, all through the daf. That what? This is just a regular machlokes of tzroiros. Here's the machlokes on the screen. Do you pay half a nezek by tzroiros? Or do you pay nezek shalom at tzroiros? It's just a machlokes, sumchas and rabbanon. That's it. Okay. Not a question. Do we go at the beginning, at the end? No. It's regular tzroiros. Do you pay half or do you pay all? No, they give out. The stories here are great, but you have to hold cup. I'm asking the olam to hold cup. Not so much here. Here's almost like gadata. Halfway through, I'll tell you when to start holding cup. I don't want to scare anybody. Usually I don't scare people. It's not that difficult of a sugya, but it's not a sugya that you just doze off and text people in the middle because then you're going to lose the thing. Okay, Tashma. Great case. You have a chicken. It's not a real picture. It was one of my pictures. It's a bunch of chickens. Let's say you see that sponge over there? It's really a bucket. And they're poking and they're pecking at the string. What's going to happen eventually? String is going to break. And whatever the string is holding up, like the dli, is going to crash and break. How do we view that? And the string broke. Oh, there were American tourists who came to Russia in the hotel. And naturally, as American visitors, they need to see if there's any sort of spy, whatever, in the room. So they start searching the room for video cameras, for audio stuff, whatever it is. And sure enough, under the bed, they find like a metal cable. So they realize right away that this is like a listening device or something. So they take out they chop it off. Fine. In the morning, they check out of the hotel. And the guy at the front desk says, "No, how was it? Was everything?" So everything was great. I'm just asking because the guys right below you, in the middle of the night while they were sleeping, a chandelier came flying down and destroyed them. Anyway, fine. This is the chevel that was detached and nishbar dli, and it fell down. Misham nezik sholim. They have to pay the full amount. Says the Gemara, Shma Mina, Basami Korazlina. Even though it flew the pail. There's two parts here. The rope and the pail. What are we talking about? We're talking about the pail. That's the important one, right? The pail didn't break right away. It had to travel a little bit, 5 feet, until it crashed on the ground and then it exploded. So that's called whatever. But over here, Shma Mina, Basami Korazlina. Why do you have to pay the full amount? Because when the chicken detached it by the string, that's when you have to pay. Says the Gemara Tigrama Chevel. No, the reason why he has to pay the full amount is because we're talking about the string. We're not even talking about the dli. But what's the kasha? What's the obvious question when you read it? The Gemara emphasizes dli, v'nishbar dli. That's one of the questions the Gemara is going to ask. But basically, this is the style of the Gemara to prove something. So we go through almost like a child sometimes. Like we ask a question, but maybe it's only talking about the string. Who proved to you it's the pail? Maybe it's the string. Okay, and we're going to prove it. Says Gemara. Okay, I have a better question. The chicken doesn't tear strings. It's a little different. And if it's different, what is that called? It's hard to get used to these terms. But if it's something different, not usual, that's called Karen. Karen. And Karen only pays on the first time half a nezek. And over here, you pay the full nezek. Says Gemara, the Mos Belisha. Interesting, my Gemara with the Nakuda says the Ma'avis. But Rashi says Mos. Mos means it's disgusting. Basically, they took dough and they put the dough all over the string. So naturally, the chicken is going to come and peck at the dough. And then eventually, the string is going to rip. So don't tell me it's mishuna. It's not different. It's normal. That's normal for the string to rip in that situation. But I have a different question. The emphasis was on the pail. So says the Gemara, Ella sumchosi. Going back to the machlokes we discussed a few times even today, that according to Sumchos, when it comes to tzroiros and this pail, you're right, the pail did fall and it traveled 5 feet and then it exploded. That's called tzroiros. That's a power that created something to move, and after it moved to a certain distance, it broke. That's only a pebble, like a pebble. And according to Sumchos, you pay the entire amount. We say you pay half because it's Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer. Sumchos argues no Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer. Says Gemara Sumchos im Sefer. You tell me it's Sumchos? Well, it doesn't fit into the rest. It says Nitas Mimenu Shever. Same kind of story that we have with the chicken. Should we go back to this chicken thing? Here. Oh no, not this one. This one. The same thing that happened in this case, where the chicken broke it and a piece fell out and broke something else. Same exact story with the pail. The pail broke, and then a piece from the pail broke something else. So you think about it, what is that called? Koyach koychoy. The chicken broke something, and that fell. That's one koyach. That's one power. Wow. I'm going to be mataneder for you today. Not barab. Okay. Yeah. Here, let me show you. Here, for you, special for you. Here's a chicken that is dancing on a jug, and the jug breaks. And a piece from the jug flies and hits something else. I'm just explaining to them that it's the power of a power. It's a second power. Why? Because one power of the chicken, his power created a breakage of the jug, and then a piece from that went and hit another jug. Okay, fine. Let me tell you something. If you could make it through this shear today, you can make it through the entire shas. This is one of the interesting datim. Goes like this. So on the first kli that the chicken broke, that's its first power, you pay 100%. And on the second one, you only pay half. Why half? Rabbi Zai. Tzroiros. The item's holding. It's sroiros. Sroiros is when an animal steps on a stone and the stone goes flying and it breaks something. That's called sroiros. The problem is visumchos misli chatzi nezik. What does sumchos hold in sroiros? That we saw here. Oh, shkoyach. Here's sroiros, Rabbi. Here you hear sroiros. And according to the Tanakhama, it's Chatzi Nezik, but according to Sumchos, it's Nezik Shalom. If you're telling me this whole thing is Sumchos, it doesn't fit in. Sumchos says you have to pay the full amount, not half amount. And over here it says you pay half. On the second clue, you pay half. It doesn't work with Sumchos. Oh, so maybe over here Sumchos would admit, why? Because it's the second power. Sumchos was talking about one stone flying out of the cow and breaking something. That's one koyach. On one koyach, he says, no, you have to pay 100%. But on the double one, when the chicken breaks the jug and the jug breaks another jug, that's a double. And maybe on that, he admits that you only pay half. Says Gemara, oh, that can't be. Why? Because that's a question that we had and nobody answered this answer. The Gemara actually asked this question. What's the halacha according to Sumchos on a double koyach, like we're talking about? So from over here, you see the lav kikoyach dami. They only pay half. Okay, we're going back. That's Rabbanon. Ushmamina basar mikara as linon. It goes according to Rabbanon. And we're going to paskin in this question. Again, what was the question? When an animal steps on a piece of glass, let's say, and it rolls 10 feet and breaks against the wall, when are you chayev? From the moment that he stepped on the piece of glass or when it hits the wall? And it's a nafkamina to many, many things. Since we have a very choshev guest, I want to show him why it's a nafkamina. Here, check this out. Check this video out. A guy throws something down, and then somebody on the ground breaks it. You know what the halacha is? The guy that breaks it with the bat is potter. You know why? I'm just saying this for the new guy. Even though there's 20,000 other people, but I want to speak to him. Because it broke the moment it fell out of the window. Halachically, it's broken. It's a goner. Even if the guy wasn't there with the bat, it's going to fall on the ground and break. And therefore, we consider it broken. So if you come with a bat and you break it, you broke a broken thing. So it's a big nafkamina. When are you chai? When is it considered broken? Is it considered broken the first moment or the moment it hits the wall? Okay, but the Gemara slugs that up and says, Omer Abibi Barabayah, the Kazal Minei Minei. We're talking about that the chicken kept on rolling it over and over and over. And so therefore, it's a real koyach. Its force popped it into the wall. It wasn't an original force that happened before. In other words, the Gemara is just saying, you don't have any proof here. Maybe it's talking about the Kazal Minei Minei. I don't understand it 100% because then why we're talking about a string attached to the bucket. I think some of the Rishonim, including Rabbeinu Chanal, maybe talking about this pail was attached to a string and it kept on swinging it, something like that. So that's what we're talking about. And finally it broke. Okay, something like that. All right. Rabbi Sai, what?
The most Belisha, though.
Who?
There's extenuating circumstances.
Well, that's right. I know what you're saying. But the Gemara is saying, together with that, somehow we have to, you're saying that what does that have to do with keep on moving it? Maybe, I'm saying it doesn't, it seems like just if you just go with Rashi, we're not even talking about the whole thing with the string. After it fell, it kept on being pushed by the chicken. So that's what I'm asking. What does it have to do with the string? What does it have to do with the most Belisha? It's not talking about the string. It didn't break when the string was cut by the chicken. It didn't break. It fell on the ground and it kept on rolling because the chicken kept rolling it. So it's a process. Rabbi say, we have a little bit of a sugi here. I need them to pay attention. There's a lot of geshmaka things here, a great deal of lumdus and something to think about. Yesterday, we had such a geshmaka, easy flowing daf, agadata, and stories and this and that. It's different. Shas has it all. Sometimes you have a daf like this, sometimes you have like that. Boy Rava. Chatzi nezik tzroiros. Migufa mishalim or mali mishalim? This is a question that we're going to be dealing with all day today. It goes like this. Again, so what's sroiris? Sroiris means a cow steps, or anything, a dog, a cow, a chicken. We just had a case with a chicken. damage that's caused by stepping on something and that thing goes flying. Almost like a bullet in a gun. You push the trigger and something goes flying out. Now, it wasn't attached to your hand. It's not a bat. It's not your fist. The animal, when it causes damage with its foot to break something, okay, that's regel. But what happens when the animal steps on a stone and the stone goes flying and breaks something? That's called sroirois. That we saw, we had a machlokes. Either HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai, it's called Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer, he said only 50%, you only pay 50%. Sumpas argues and says 100%. But the question is like this. Let me show you this. So yesterday we discussed this halacha. Basically, when you have a tam that pays 50%, he pays a keren, he pays megufay. He pays from, before we go into that, two ideas, gufay and aliyah. We need to know these terms, new terms, not so new. If you're with us, you know what gufay means. That when you cause damage, the most you're going to pay is the value of the animal that caused the damage. If your animal, the red guy in this chart, is worth 500, the most you're going to pay, even if this red guy destroyed a Lamborghini that's worth $250,000, the most you could collect is $500. Why? Migufay, from its own body, whatever it's worth. That's it. Whether it's alive or dead, it doesn't matter right now. 500. Aliyah means there's no limit. Aliyah means from the best of the guy's real estate. So if the cow is only worth 500, but he has buildings in downtown Manhattan, he has to pay $250,000 like a tatala. He has to pay everything. So again, gufa means it's limited by its own value. Aliyah means there's no limit. You have to pay everything. So this is the Gemara's question. What you're going to see here is there's three cases: the top, bottom, and we're asking about the middle. The middle is sroiros. When an animal kicks a stone and breaks something, is it similar to a keren, a ox that gored? Because only keren has half a payment, and sroiros is a half a payment. Regel doesn't have half a payment. Shen and regel, when an animal eats produce, it eats a Ferrari, he pays 100%. Regel, if an animal kicks, or I shouldn't say kick, if he walks over a Ferrari because it's trying to get from point A to point B, that's regel. He would have to pay 100%. The only thing that pays 50% is keren. Keren means that he did it intentionally to damage. Don't ask questions why. It doesn't make sense. He did it intentionally. That's what the Torah says. Why? Because you didn't have to know. You have to protect your animal. You have to protect other people's property from damage. Things that are normal. It's normal that an animal is going to try to get from point A to point B and step over somebody's car and destroy it. If it's whatever. If it's a low car, like a Ferrari. But it's not normal for a bull to take a Ferrari with its horn and throw it. That's not normal. So if it did it 3 times, it's normal for your animal. So that's a muad you should have taken care of. Okay, so here's the Gemara's question. That's the whole sugya today. This chatzi nezik tzroiros, which is regel, right? When an animal pushes a stone and flies 20 feet and breaks something, that's tzroiros. You only pay 50%. So is it similar to keren, because keren is 50%, or it's similar to regel and you have to pay nezik shalom? What's the Gemara's question? Do you pay megufay or from aliyah? Why? Because keren, you pay megufay. You only max it out whatever the animal's worth. But regel, there's no max. It's unlimited, whatever the damage is. Let's see inside. When we say that you have to pay half a nezik for tzroiros, you only pay 50%, not sumchos. Chachamim. How does he pay? Does he pay max what it's worth? Or there is no limit, it's ma'aliyah? What's the question? Does he only have a max? There's no such thing in the whole Torah that somebody pays only half nezik. The only time we find it is by the nezik called keren. And keren is only megufay. Maybe you should pay unlimited, like regel. Because we never find that the damage called regel ever pays with a limit. There's no limit in regel. So since tzroiris is regel, there shouldn't be a limit. But on the other hand, you're only paying 50%. And 50% is like Karen, and Karen only pays max whatever it's worth. You heard the Shiloh? So now we're going to go on a roller coaster. Toshma. So now we go to this case again. Oh, we did a whole thing here. I didn't notice this. Okay. You see arrows down, arrows up. Should we do that? Here. Is it like the guy in the down and then? Okay, fine. Now, bring a right. This is the second time. We're going to bring it the third time, the same case. But we're bringing this for another reason. Check this out. The chicken dancing on the jug. Hidus ain't a mud. It's not a mud. We're showing right to raise a mud. It is a mud. What does that mean? It can't be that he's just jumping, because jumping is normal. So we're talking about a lot of hidus v'hitus. We're talking about that it broke the jug, and the jug broke a second jug. And that's called, what is that called, Rabbi Isai, when it breaks the second jug? Tzroiros. And that's our machlokes that we're asking now the question. This comes to answer Rav's question. The Tanakh says it's not a muad. What does it mean? That he's like a muad. He's not a muad, just a tam. And a tam pays migufoy. There's a limit. And a muad goes on migufishal. And the other man says, no, there is a muad because of mali mishal. You should pay the entire nezek. Oh, so we have a good raya. We have machlokes. The answer is we have machlokes from this. You see over here, lie, and this is the same exact answer that we said a second ago. That's not the machlokes here. But look, the sumchus of Rabbanon coming. It sounds confusing, but it's not, because we did it 10 times. Again, sumchus holds that when it comes to tzroiros, you pay how much? The entire amount, and chacham say you pay half. That's the machlokes, not the machlokes whether or not gufa and aliyah. Exactly. Tashma. Oh. Rabbi said this is also a very geschmack story, and actually, let me see. I wasn't zeicha to see it yet, because it's again 4:00 in the morning, and Yoshi just finished it now. So let me see how it came out. Not this. Basically, you have a dog that's trying to eat a bread, and on the bottom of the bread there's a coal. So let's see what happened there. Not bad. Okay. So we have two artists. We have artist number one is Yoshi. We have another artist that is doing 3D. He doesn't work on Friday, Shabbos. He doesn't work on Shabbos Sunday. So, the kitzer. So what is this called? He tried to eat a loaf of bread. On the bottom of the loaf of bread, the bread was very hot. There's a coal. And he brought the coal to a gadish, to a bale of hay. And what happened? The whole field burned down. What is that called, Rabbi Isai? Tzroiros. Because the damage started over here and went over there. That's the damage of tzroiros. So Tashma, a dog ate whatever, some sort of bread, and then he took the coal. You have to put in that there's a coal. And he went to the bale of wheat, and he ate the bread, and he burnt down the whole field. He has to pay full damage for the bread. Why? Because that is called shen. He ate something, he enjoyed it, he benefited, he pays the full amount. There's no chatzi nezek with shen. But on the bale of wheat and everything else, mishal chatzi nezek. Why? Because that's called tzroiros. My time la mishum navalu tzroiros. It's because it's tzroiros. V'tanei Allah mishalim chatzi nezek migufay. It says mefurish over there. They have to pay. There's a limit. So that answers our question. That tzroiros has a limit. You asked me, the tzroiros have a limit, so unlimited? Here it says mefurish, there's a limit. As the Gemara, I don't understand. How can you prove it from here? Where in the world do you see that when a person has to pay full amount, it's megufe? It goes, there's a limit. So Rava was only asking his question on a case of tzroiros. Look what he says. By Rava, chatzi nezek tzroiros. He's only asking the question if it's half. Because if it's the whole, like sumchos, that tzroiros is a whole, then of course it's ma'aliyah. So from here you see that it's very difficult to understand that if you have to pay the full amount, it should be migufa. Elo kigoin. So the Gemara says, therefore we have to say the shani. He changed it around. He did something weird. Let's see if he did it. Maybe not. Maybe that's what because I took his thing. Shani begachelas. I just don't want to. Here. Oh, it is here. No, this guy. No, that's not it. Nothing happened there. Okay, fine. Shani begachelas just means that the dog did something weird, different. He took the coal with his mouth. Okay, mouth is a little bit exaggerated because he took it with his paw. He took the coal and it got real hot and he threw it on the Gadish. That's not something normal that a dog does. And therefore what? It's called I need an AB over here. What is it called when an animal does something different? Karen. It's Karen, and therefore the time it would be chatzin nezik. Okay, go to shani bogachelas. So the same thing would be by tzroiros. The Omar, and now we're going back to old machlokes that we had. If you're new, this is going to be a little interesting, but we had this machlokes whether or not you pay half amount in the nizik's property. According to Reb Tarfon, if the damage occurred in the damaged person's property, you pay a nezik shalom. The Omar, Mishuna Karen. Mishuna Karen means, what is Mishuna Karen? It's different Karen, meaning it's a tam. It's different. Mishuna, the whole Karen is weird. It's different. It's not the normal act of an animal. Animals don't go and take coals from here and put it over there. Animals don't go break things with their horns down for fun. But if you did it in his property, you have to pay the full amount and migufay. Says Gemara, Velohi. My time I'm looking at Tarfon. That's not right. Why did you say that it goes like Tarfon? Mishum nezik shalem. I'm going to take out the gufay. I don't know why. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say. A second ago, Velohi. My time I'm looking at Tarfon. Why do you just force yourself to say that it goes like Reb Tarfon, and Reb Tarfon says you have to pay a full amount? Mishum nezik shalem. Because you were bothered that he has to pay the full amount. You can also go listen to this. This is an amazing teretz. It's very, very, very kishrendik. Very. In other words, the Gemara says like this. Perhaps Rebbe Lazar holds two shitas, and now we're going to introduce something brand new that nobody knows about. First of all, he holds they have to pay the full amount. Okay? You asked me a question. If it's nezik shalem, why is it megufoy? Why is it capped out at the amount of the animal? The capping only happens when it's 50%. But if you pay 100%, you don't cap it. Listen to this chap. Check this out. So first of all, I want to remind you about this video. Just understand the next chart. Okay, I'm going to read. This is our 3D guy, and this is very, very. It's in its infancy. It's going to get a lot better, but here goes. This is Karen. Karen means that he didn't enjoy it. He created damage. He wanted to damage. Okay, it doesn't have to be with his horn. It could be with any part of his body. And here it goes. The reason why I'm showing it to you is because notice the colors. This guy is a Tom. He's wearing a nice light blue sweater. This guy is a bad guy. Okay, he's has the MDY jacket on, and he causes damage. He's more like a moon. Okay, so now that we have these two guys, look at this next chart. We have, and the reason why I did this chart is very simple. Very interesting case. We're going to have a mission later on, maybe in like 25 days or so. The mission says if you take a muad, you take an animal that damaged a lot, and you put him in a room, you lock the door, and he breaks out of the door. If he's a tam, he has to pay, and if he's a muad, he doesn't have to pay. Anybody understand that? No. Doesn't make any sense, right? You locked him up. He broke out. Okay, he broke out. If he's a tam, he didn't do it 3 times. He has to pay. If this is his fifth time that he's doing it, he has to pay. He's potter. Sorry. If he's a tam, he has to pay. If he's a muad, he doesn't have to pay. So the Gemara says it doesn't make any sense logically. Why would a muad be less chayiv than a tam? So the Gemara says, no, you didn't understand. Tam b'mekayim medes. This guy, this animal is still a tam. Every muad is a tam. He's a tam plus a muad. He's 50% plus 50%. So the part of the tam you have to pay, not the part of the muad. That's what the Gemara says. That's how the Gemara explains.
Why not the muad?
Because he locked him up. He took action. It's not his fault that he broke out. He didn't have to know that he's going to break out. But the tam part, the 50% you have to pay. I'm not going into that. When we get there, we'll understand why. So why do you use such a funny language? Just say he has to pay 50%. Okay. Is it an Amniach? It's a Mishnah. Before it's a Mishnah. Okay, anyways. So let's take that idea. That every muad, a muad is not a new concept. A muad is a tam that became a muad. It's a tam that became a muad. So it's a 50% chiyuv, plus you add another 50% to it. So says the Gemara, you're asking me why is it capped off? There's no cap on 100%. You're right. The cap is on the 50% of the tam. And the other 50%, so that's why I put it over here. Tam chetzi nezik megufay. You only pay 50% on the tam part. On 50% of the animal, you pay migufay, you're capped off. On the other 50% of the muad part, there's no cap. That's ma'aliyah. Okay, go figure out the math. Maybe, I don't know, let's do it together. There's a $250,000 Lamborghini. So half of that is $125,000. So for the $125,000, you only pay $500 because that's all the whatever. I don't know exactly because maybe half of the animal is not even $500. Half of the animal is only $250. Pay $250 for the $125.
What's the dead animal?
He's still alive, but the dead car. Yeah. But the other half, the other $125,000, has to pay the total amount because it's ma'aliyah. One part is megufay. There's a cap. The value of the animal. The other part, there's no cap. Okay, let's see it inside. I'm telling you, this is one of the more complicated sugyas, but I think it's ganz geschmack. Says the Gemara. Two things. First of all, he has to pay 100%. But then you ask me a question on 100%, why should he pay megufay? He's still a tam. And on that part that he's a tam, the 50% that he's a tam, it's capped off. The gufay goes on the tam part. Very good. Ask the Gemara. That's in a case where a tam became a muad. You could say that the muad has a little bit of tam in him. Every muad started off somewhere. He damaged 1, 2, 3. He was a tam. Then he became a muad. He graduated to muad. So every muad has a little bit of tam. Not in our case. In our case, he's doing tzroiros. He popped a stone that flew 10 feet and broke something. He became a muad right then and there. Tzroiros is an immediate nezik shalom. There's no tam. So you can't say that this guy used to be a tam. And the part of tam of his pays migufay. It's not true. That's not what happened. Hey, more the shamas the Rabbi Yehuda betam v'nasa muad b'muad mitchilasa by tzroiros when he's a muad right away. Daf Yomi Beis mishamas lei. The turning of the daf. This is very, very sad. I'm going to keep it together over here. Our big chaver, Robert Early, who comes to shir every single day for the last 3 years, is a big, big tzaddik. His son was killed in Gaza yesterday. And 2 people donated $1,000 each, so that we say the turning of the daf is sponsored by Hanan Averbach, my holy nephew, son of Robert and Jen. Eli Nishmas Ben Mayer, Ben, Robert, and Jen. Jen, there's videos out there of her getting out of the car in the middle of the Levaya and singing Achtos. And there's a lot of stories about her. Very, very strong woman. And Leilu Nishmas Binyamin Meir Ben Robert David. I don't know what Robert, I guess that's his name. His Hebrew name is David. Kosh Baruch should give them a big nechama. and I don't want to cry now. Says the Gemara. Okay, so where were we? When he started out as a muad, there's no half of him that's a tam. He was born a muad, right? A lion that we said yesterday, 2 days ago. We're talking about lions. Lions are muad. So they were a tam and then became a muad? No, they were born a muad. Says the Gemara, Eloki kama Rebbe Lazar nezik shalom ki goin dayayit. What happened was this dog actually did it 3 times. That's exactly machlokes. Machlokes whether when an animal keeps on shooting stones out of his foot and keeps on breaking things, is there a muad? Do you become a muad? This is Shaila and Rashi. Is it talking about normal behavior or abnormal behavior? We're not going to get into it. So that exactly is a machlokes. Whether you can become a muad if you do it 3 times, or ask the Gemara, if you're telling me the machlokes is whether or not sroiris, you become a muad or not, well, that's an old shaila that Rav himself asked once, and he never had an answer. He asked that question, either Rabbanan Adolit Sroiris, either Rebbe Lazar Yeshadol Sroiris. You just answered the question. According to Rabbanan, you don't become a muad, and according to Rebbe Lazar, you do become a muad. My question that I asked before, what was the question? Rabbi said, back to the original question. Is Sroiris, do you pay Migufay or Ma'aliyah? Is there a limit or no limit? Is there a cap or no cap? I was asking the question according to Rabbanan, who argued that what Sumcha says Sroiris is full nezek, Rabbanan say Chatzi nezek. Aval Hacha, this Brisa, you can't prove anything because the whole Brisa is going to go according to Sumchos. That what? Aval Hacha ben Rabbanan ben Rebbe Lazar, because Sumchos Svirlu. So there's no right to Rava. This Brisa goes according to Sumchos that says you've paid the full amount. The time in my Rabbanan Chatzi nezek. What's the machlokes? Why do they say you have to pay half? If Rabbanan and Sumchos says different Rabbanan. Yeah, there's a little confusing, but in Sumchos that says you pay full amount for tzroiris. Why do Rabbanan argue? The shani v'lo yayed, because he did it differently, and he didn't do it 3 times. He did something weird. So if again, let's do chazara. If an animal does something weird, what is that called? Keren. And he's a tam. And a tam pays 50%. We have the machlokes again. This is the second time we're talking about this machlokes today. That what? That if a tam does nezek in a backyard of the damaged party, according to Reb Tarfon, you pay the whole amount. And according to Rabban, you pay 50%. Says the Gemara, so now the Gemara just asks a question. Who told you that according to Reb Tarfon, that when you pay the full amount, there's a limit? Who told you that? Maybe there's no limit. Says the Gemara, yes. Very nice shot, the Gemara says it. Okay, you don't have to, it's very, very simple kavachomer. Very simple. The Gemara says like this. Regel, how much does regel pay if it causes damage in Rosh Hashanah? 0. I know, there's a lot of musagim. Only regel is only Rosh Hashanah. How much does Karen pay in Rosh Hashanah? Depends. 50% if it's a tam, 100% if it's a muad. So the Gemara says like this. Very, very good. Regel pays how much in Rosh Hashanah? 0. How much does regel pay in Rosh Hashanah? 100%. So Karen, who pays 50% in Rosh Hashanah, certainly should pay 100% in Rosh Hashanah. Okay. So Mamela, but it's dayoi. In other words, I just learned that from a kavachomer. Dayo, you have to cap a kavachomer. You can't take a kavachomer to the extreme. It's only from as much as you learn from. That's as much as you can go. Dayo lovim adin leis kenida. Now, Karen Rosh Hashanah half a nezek is migufay. The whole kavachomer was if Karen pays 50% in Rosh Hashanah, certainly should pay Rosh Hashanah. What does it pay in Rosh Hashanah? Migufay. There's a cap. So in Mela, that's all. I take that into Rosh Hashanah. I say there's a cap. I can't use your the Kavachomer and say, well, if it's in Rosh Hashanah, he pays Ma'aliyah. There's no limit. That doesn't. You can't do that in the Kavachomer. Kavachomer is limited to how much, where you learned it from, and you learned it from Rosh Hashanah, half an ezek, and there's a cap. So you take that cap and you bring it to. So you just asked me, how do I know the Reb Tarfon says that if it's a full nezek, there's a cap? Because I just learned it from Kavachomer, and the Kavachomer is a cap. Says the Gemara, Reb Tarfon, Leslie Daya. You see from here, this case itself, you see Reb Tarfon doesn't agree with the whole idea of Daya. Why? Because he just jumped from Chatzi Nezek in Rosh Hashanah to a full amount in Rosh Hashanah. If you're going to cap it, you have to cap it at 50% in Rosh Hashanah to 50% in Rosh Hashanah. You just took this idea, this logic, and you jumped from 50% in Rosh Hashanah. Oh, you should be chayiv 100% in Rosh Hashanah. That's not Daya. So the Gemara, you're right. We had this a number of times in Shas. This is a true and tried answer. It's not like a tchak. When don't you say dayoi? Dayoi, if it ruins your whole kavachomer, you have to throw a little kavachomer in the garbage, then you don't use dayoi. So if I wouldn't use dayoi in the first kavachomer to tell me that in Rosh Hashanah you have to pay nezik shalom, then I would have to get rid of the kavachomer, so I don't use the concept called dayoi. But if I'm gonna use dayoi and it doesn't ruin the kavachomer, isli dayoi, then I could use the concept of dayoi. So anyways, today we learned a lot of new yisodos, a lot of new halachas, and that's why it could be a little confusing. We just learned dayoi. We haven't spoken about dayoi in a long time, and we're flying through it because we're running out of time. Agabana, Gufa. Yes, I explained it a little bit more. This dayoi thing. So when dayoi destroys the kavachomer, then I do use dayoi. When dayoi does not destroy the kavachomer could stay there, and I use dayoi. So now I'm going to limit migufoi, and I'm going to use dayoi because it doesn't ruin the kavachomer. I still have a kavachomer. I'm just going to say there's a cap, and the kavachomer stands, and I'm going to use dayoi. Again, dayoi means dayoi lovim and adon leis kinidoin. Okay, forget it. Gufa boira yesh hadol etzroiros and hadol etzroiros. So we just discussed it. Gufa just means we're going back to something that we touched upon, and let's talk about it better, more, deeper. An animal that has shot sroiros out of its leg. I don't know if today, like, you drive on the highway and then a pebble comes flying off a truck or off the wheel of a truck, breaks your windshield. That's probably sroiros. Why not? So if a truck driver does that three times, maybe you should turn to what? It never happened to you? Happened to me too? All the time. That's a little bit of troyers. The guy in front of you popped a pebble and hit your windshield. Now, is there a concept of tam and muad in troyers? Can you become a muad? So there's a halacha. It makes no sense logically. You only have to pay 50%. If I break your windshield, I pay 50%. Why? It doesn't have to make sense. That's halacha l'Moshe Messinai, without making sense. But if somebody did it 3 times, does it become a muad? It does. What's the question? Do I compare it to Karen because Karen has the idea of 50%? So in a Karen, you do it 3 times, 50%, 50%, and then on the 4th time you pay 100%. Or perhaps no, it remains regel. Regel just means the truck is driving. He doesn't want to break your windshield. He's not eating. He's not consuming your windshield. He's just driving, minding his own business, and he popped up a pebble and he broke your thing. That's called regel. So in regel, there's no such thing called Karen and muad, tam and muad, and therefore it remains 50% for the rest of the truck driver's life. Toshma. Oh, so we're going to come to this hidus for the 3rd time. Hidus ain't a muad. You don't pay, and over here it means you don't pay, you only pay half an ezek. You pay full amount. What if a chicken jumps on a thing that's 100% normal, he should pay 100%. Why 50%? It means that he jumped and he broke it and it flew and it broke the 2nd thing. It's our question. This chicken did it 3 times already. Every day he jumps on a jug and breaks another jug. No, we're talking about it. It's the first. It's only one time. And the machlekes, this is the 3rd time we're saying the same answer. The question is whether Tzroiris pays a half a nezek or 100%. Tashma. I love this case. An animal relieved itself in somebody's dough. Shmaka stuff. Huh? You know where it's? I think it's it's very common. Let's say with birds, if you have a bird, like you have a parrot or something, put some food and they do whatever. But birds, we're gonna see, it doesn't really work with a bird. An animal that has das, a little bit of das, typically will not soil good food. They don't do that. They go to a side place, whatever. So what is that called? Again, Rabboisai, another case of Tzroiris. This Tzroiris. Because it came out over here and landed over there.
Any grama service?
Not grama. It moved. The damage didn't happen right away. It was flying through the air like a pebble. Wasn't there just a pebble and a piece of relief?
That doesn't
Soya.
fly through the air.
Huh?
You believe that on the dough?
Waste from an animal doesn't fly through the air.
How does it get there? It doesn't put it up down.
Drops down.
Drop is through the air.
But right
What's the difference, vertical or horizontal?
But it's just
A stone that goes this way 5 feet or 10 inches this way, or waste that goes 10 inches down.
But the vertical is the vase that dropped from high up.
So that was Taisus yesterday, that the vase is the kli. And Taisus says that when it comes to the chaitz, like with Haman's daughter, it depends. This is the weapon. The weapon doesn't work like that. Taisus makes that nafkamina, that the kli does work, but the weapon not. Okay, anyway. That's the story. I just said the story, but maybe just as a the chadish is there's a. I looked it up again, and it brought down like 3 different Gadolim that it happened to. But the bottom line is, or something, Kluger, whatever. There was a chassan who, right before his wedding, he came to visit his kal or something, and he noticed that a chicken did something bad to the dough. It ate from the dough. It relieved itself on the dough. So she took the chicken and kicked the chicken into the wall or something. And he couldn't believe it. He says, I can't marry this woman. But then he didn't want to hurt her feelings, the whole thing. So he pretended that he was stealing from the pushka, from the tzedakah box. And they caught him. They said, you cannot marry this guy. He's a terrible guy. And they threw him out of the city. And he was very happy. He said, look, or maybe the story was that he stole from the pushka and he just made up a story that I don't know. Okay, anyway, the point of the story is, without ruining the story, that not to hurt somebody's feelings, not to break up a shidduch like that, he was willing that they should say something not nice about it. Anyway, weiter. Says the Gemara, so back to the chicken. Back to the animal, the animal that relieved itself on the dough. Here's the answer, because he probably did it 3 times, and the machlokes is there a tam in a mood or not? Was the first time it ever did it. Look at the 4th time that we're saying this answer. The question is, it's Tzroiris, is half a nezek or full nezek? And that's what you guys were saying. Everybody here was saying it. It's Meshuna, and therefore it is Keren. And if it's Keren, how much should he pay? Only 50%. Says the Gemara, no. The Dochik Le'alma. It was in a tight spot. It had to relieve itself. It couldn't hold himself in. So that's normal for it. At that point in time, it's normal. Even on a piece of dough. So if the machlokes is how much Tzroiris has to pay, 50% or 100%, Rabbi Yehuda aloch Sumchus, why are you making up a new machlokes? Just say, I hold like Sumchus and I hold like Rabban, and I hold 50%, you hold 100%. Says the Gemara, Gadolim and Sruli. There's a special chiddush here with an animal that relieves itself. It comes out of his body, so maybe it should be like part of his body. It's not like a new entity. It's not a stone. That's the chiddush. Gadolim has a special chiddush. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day. And now we're just going to say 1 kapitel of Tehillim. If you want to stick around, great. Not. We'll say kapitel kuf lamed. And remember, when we say in Shemona Esrei every day, Mechaye, Mesim, Berachamim, Rabin. Baruch Hu is going to bring back all the Mesim and he's going to soymich noiflim. He's going to give chizuk to all those families that need chizuk. There's hundreds and thousands of families that are out there. They don't even know what's going on with their loved ones, and they lost loved ones. And roife cholim, we know what that means. Umatir asurim, we know what that means. It's all in the first part of Shemona Esrei. We could be mechaber more in all four of those things. Rabbi Yisai will say together. Shira malois mimamakim grosicha Adonai Adonai shemo v'korli tieno az davach kashuvois lekol tachanunoi im avoinois tishmorio Adonai mi amoid kimcho aslicha lemanti vorei kivisi Adonai kivso nafshi v'ledvaro yecholti nafshi l'Adonai v'shemrim laboiker shemrim laboiker yachel Yisrael el Adonai kim Adonai hachesed v'arbei imo yifedus Who Yivdes Israel, Mikol, Abenisa, Acheiru Kobes Israel, and Zin Mitzoro, Veshivio, Hoim din Ben Bayom, Ben Bayabosho, Hamakim Rachim Aleim, Etzim Mitzoro, Rebachom Achel Loiro, Mishib, Legulo, Hashto, Bagalo, Bizman, Korib, Rimar, Omein, Shkoyach.